The digital clock on my bedside table glared **2:03 a.m. **, the absolute dead zone of the night, when the past is supposed to be quiet. The insistent, anonymous ring of my landline sliced through the darkness, an anachronism in an age of cell phones, and yet I felt compelled to answer it. My heart was pounding, a primal fear seizing me, because my late brother, Tommy, who had died tragically when he was just 14 years old, used to call me on that very same landline from the basement, pretending to be a spy when we were kids. I picked up the receiver, my voice a shaky whisper. And then, a sound I hadn't heard in *42 years *, a gravelly, tired voice that still held the ghost of that mischievous teenage cadence, spoke a simple phrase that obliterated my reality, **, it's Tommy, **, my hand clamped over the phone, my breath caught in my throat. My brother, Tommy Hayes, was buried in Section D, Plot 11, of the Greenlawn Cemetery, marked by a granite stone that I visit religiously every spring. He died in a freak construction accident in 1983. But the man on the phone, the man who called himself Tommy, didn't sound like a ghost. He sounded like a man who had been through hell and finally found his way back. He didn't ask how I was. He asked about a specific, deeply personal childhood secret only the real Tommy could know. The location of the missing baseball card we thought we'd lost forever, buried under the oak tree on Mrs. Henderson's property. The shock didn't end there. His voice broke as he explained that the accident that killed him wasn't an accident at all. It was a cover-up orchestrated by someone we deeply trusted. Someone who then fabricated his death, buried an empty casket, and erased him from existence for 4 decades. The moment he said it, my memory clicked onto a specific, tense interaction right before the accident, a fleeting look of cold calculation that I had dismissed as juvenile paranoia. Now, I was facing the impossible. My brother was alive, he was terrified, and he was the victim of a decades-long conspiracy, all because of something my family had inherited. The question was not if I should believe him, but whether the secret of his survival was more dangerous than the lie of his death, and whether the person who tried to murder him 42 years ago would try again now that the impossible had happened. Tell me if you would have done the same thing, or if you would have simply hung up, dismissing the call as a cruel prank. To fully understand the gravity of that 2 a.m. call and the intricate web of betrayal that had held me captive for 4 decades, you need to know the story of the Hayes family and the heavy legacy that rested on our shoulders. My name is Daniel Hayes and I am 56 years old. Tommy was my younger brother, my only sibling, and my best friend. He was 14, full of life, perpetually tinkering with radios and things he found in the trash, always plotting some innocent, elaborate scheme. We grew up in a comfortable, old-money home in a small, tight-knit New England town. Our family wealth, however, was not based on stocks or banking. It was tied to **, a specific piece of land **, a massive, inherited property on the edge of town that had been in the Hayes name since the 1800s. It was considered the family treasure, a beautiful, secluded plot, but for decades it had been the source of local gossip and legal interest. The land was known locally as Hayes's Folly, because it was legally tied up in ancient, complex easements and restricted covenants that made it impossible to sell, develop, or even accurately appraise. Our father, a kind, gentle man named Robert, was content to simply maintain the land and live off the small income from our family trust. But others saw the potential for a massive fortune, if only those restrictions could be lifted. The central figure in the conspiracy, the man who handled all the family's legal affairs and was often at our house, was Uncle George ***. George wasn't our biological uncle. He was our father's cousin, but he was treated like family. He was a smooth, imposing man, a successful local lawyer with ambition that far outstripped his wealth. George was obsessed with the Hayes land. He was always pressuring Dad to find a legal loophole to monetize it. Dad always refused, citing our grandfather's dying wish to keep the land untouched. George would simply smile and say, "Robert, your sentimental attachment is costing us all millions." The tragedy struck in the summer of **1983**. Tommy, always resourceful, had convinced Dad to let him help an old friend of Dad's, a local builder named Mr. Peterson, on a small, private construction site on the outskirts of town. It was simple grunt work, intended to teach Tommy the value of labor. One rainy afternoon, we received the call. A beam had collapsed. They said Tommy was instantly crushed. It was horrific, sudden, and completely devastating. I remember the closed casket. My parents insisted it was too traumatic to view his body, citing his severe injuries. I was 14, barely older than Tommy, and the grief shattered me. The town rallied. George handled everything. The burial was quick and quiet, and the official verdict was accidental death due to structural failure. The accident investigation was swift, handled by the local police, and closed within a week. George was the rock for my parents, handling the estate, the insurance, and the endless paperwork. He became indispensable. 42 years passed. Our parents died peacefully, years apart, never truly recovering from the loss. I inherited the family trust and the land Hayes's Folly which remained untouched, a green scar in the middle of a developing suburb. George, now a well-established, respected fixture in the local legal community, still managed the trust, claiming it was his duty to the family. I was, frankly, too burdened by the past to question him. I had built a good but lonely life. Tommy's grave remained the anchor of my memory. Then came the call. "It's Tommy." I can still hear the static and the fear in his voice. I didn't recognize the deep voice, but the reference to the baseball card, a unique 1974 Topps card of Doc Ellis that we had painstakingly buried under Mrs. Henderson's prize. Winning oak tree was undeniable. Only Tommy and I knew about that. I demanded to know where he was. He said he was calling from a burner phone in a different state, afraid to give me details. He was living under an assumed identity, having cobbled together a life on the run. Then came the staggering truth. The accident was a setup. The beam collapse was intentional, triggered by a preset explosive charge disguised in the structure, designed to look like structural failure. Tommy, being the curious tinkerer, had found the rudimentary device moments before the planned collapse. He tried to disarm it, but only managed to delay the explosion and escape with severe, but non-fatal, injuries. He was taken to a local clinic by Mr. Peterson, the builder, who was an old, loyal Navy friend of my father's and not part of the plot. Peterson immediately realized it was an assassination attempt, not an accident. Tommy's life was in danger. Tommy was 14. He was terrified. Peterson told my father, Robert, who arrived at the clinic frantic. My father, in a moment of sheer parental panic, made the impossible decision. He realized that the killer was too powerful, too close, and too willing to commit murder. He had to fake Tommy's death to save his life. The closed casket. It contained construction debris and heavy rocks, courtesy of Mr. Peterson, My father, with Peterson's help, created the entire narrative. They put Tommy on a military freight transport to a new, secret life in the Midwest, instructed never to contact anyone until my father passed away. Why the Midwest? It was far, and it had been the location of our father's old, distant wartime family who were sworn to silence. The promise, once the threat was gone, he could return. Tommy had waited for my parents' death, and now, finally, he was making contact. The threat, the perpetrator of the attempted murder, the man who had the motive, the access, and the power to swiftly cover up a crime. Uncle George. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. George, the kind, indispensable uncle, who comforted us, who managed my trust, was a murderer who had buried an empty coffin and forced my brother into exile. His motive, Tommy explained, was the land. Hayes's folly. George had discovered a legal interpretation that would allow him to invalidate the restrictive covenants and sell the property for hundreds of millions, but only if the entire Hayes family tree could be legally accounted for and terminated. My father and I were one problem. Tommy, as a minor, was the second. George needed us all gone, or legally dead, to execute his ultimate scheme. When the attempt failed, George focused on keeping Tommy legally deceased. I needed proof. Tommy couldn't risk returning until I had undeniable evidence against George. He gave me two pieces of information. First, he had the original coded message left by my father, Robert, in the one place George wouldn't touch, the lining of the old, leather-bound Bible in the attic. Second, the baseball card under the oak tree. It wasn't just a card. Tommy had taped a tiny piece of the original, crude explosive wire that he had cut from the device he found at the construction site to the back of the card, a child's instinctive forensic sample. So that's the situation I was in. The man I had relied on for 4 decades, the legal guardian of my inheritance, was a calculating murderer who had stolen my brother and my entire past. My brother, now 56, was living like a ghost, waiting for me to risk my own life to prove his existence and expose the man who tried to kill him. I could have stayed silent, enjoyed my comfortable life, and waited for George to die, eventually inheriting the land. Or I could confront him, risk my entire existence, and potentially face the same fate as Tommy, all to reclaim my brother and avenge my family. The weight of 42 years of lies was crushing. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have prioritized self-preservation and walked away from the risk, or would you have faced the betrayal head-on to bring your brother home? Seriously, let me know what choice you would have made right there. I chose to face the betrayal head-on. There was no way I could live another day knowing the truth, letting George's chilling, decades-long lie continue to cast a shadow over my life. I had to bring Tommy home. My first move was to secure the evidence. The attic was dusty and smelled like old wood and forgotten things. I found the Bible, Dad's old, heavy leather-bound King James. I followed Tommy's instructions, carefully peeling back the lining of the back cover. Tucked inside was a tiny, yellowed, handwritten note from my father. It was not a confession, but a promise. My dearest Tommy, you are safe. George is the danger. Wait for the land to pass to Daniel, then contact him. God protect you. R. It was the first piece of undeniable proof of the conspiracy. The second piece was riskier. I drove to the old Mrs. Henderson's property, which was now a sprawling corporate campus. The ancient oak tree was still standing in the middle of the manicured lawn, a testament to its protected status. I brought a shovel, and under the cover of a cloudy evening I dug. The earth was hard, but I found it. The small, plastic sleeve containing the *** Doc Ellis baseball card ***. My heart hammered in my chest. I flipped the card over, and there it was, a tiny, almost invisible *** piece of blackened, brittle wire ***, carefully taped to the cardboard. It was a fragment of forensic evidence, the wire from the explosive device. I secured both the note and the card and immediately contacted Tommy. I told him I had the proof and we needed a plan. Tommy, the resourceful kid who tinkered with radios, had become a master of anonymity and security. He instructed me on how to set up a secure, encrypted communication line. The plan was terrifyingly simple, but brilliant. ***, we would use the land against George. ***, I called George the next day. He was still the perfect, composed lawyer. "Daniel, good to hear from you. What can I do for you, George?" I said, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. "I want to sell the land, Hayes's Folly. I'm tired of the burden. I want to finally settle the estate." The silence on the other end was momentary, but I could sense the shift in his demeanor, the greedy calculation taking over. "Daniel, you know the covenants. It's almost impossible." "Not impossible," I countered smoothly, using a phrase Tommy had coached me on. "I think the covenants can be legally nullified if *** all living heirs *** agree to dissolve the family trust, and the land is converted to a community preservation trust first. That should satisfy the original intent, allowing a subsequent sale. This was the trap. George had spent 42 years ensuring the legal system recorded *** only one living heir ***, me. George practically purred. "That's an ingenious interpretation, Daniel. A risky move, but one that could certainly set the stage for an enormous payout. I'll draw up the paperwork immediately. We'll need a meeting to formalize the agreement of the heir." We set the meeting for the following Monday in George's private office. Over the weekend, Tommy flew in, not to our home, but to a heavily secured safe house arranged by an old military contact of Mr. Peterson's. I met him there. Seeing him, a weathered, older man with the same bright, knowing eyes, was the most cathartic experience of my life. He was alive. The hole in my heart for 42 years instantly closed. We hugged, not with tears, but with a quiet, fierce resolve. Monday morning, George's office was all leather and mahogany. He looked smug, pushing the complex legal documents across the table. "Sign here, Daniel. Once this is signed, the legal groundwork is laid for the biggest land sale in this county's history." I picked up the pen, but before I signed, the door opened. In walked a tall, imposing man in a pristine suit. It was Tommy. George looked at him, his composure cracking for the first time in 4 decades. His face went utterly slack, then a sickly shade of white. He looked like he had seen a ghost. Who are you?" George stammered, his eyes darting to me. I smiled, a cold, hard smile that was 42 years in the making. "George, I believe you've met him. This is *** Tommy Hayes ***, my brother, the other * living heir." Tommy walked over, placed the old family Bible and the baseball card in front of George, and simply said, "The explosion didn't work, George, and I was never really buried." George completely lost control. He lunged across the desk, shouting, "You were dead. You were **dead*." He was manic, trying to grab the Bible. Before he could, 2 FBI agents, who had been posing as George's administrative staff, thanks to Peterson's high-level military contacts, rushed in. They had been recording the entire interaction. I had not just brought Tommy home. I had orchestrated a confession and the final piece of evidence. The aftermath was swift and absolute. George was arrested immediately. The taped confession, combined with the forensic wire fragment on the baseball card and my father's letter, sealed his fate. He was charged with attempted murder and multiple counts of conspiracy and fraud related to the land trust. The land, Hayes's Folly, was immediately locked down pending the massive investigation. George's reputation was destroyed, and his legal career ended. Tommy and I spent the next year working to clear his name and re-establish his legal identity. It was a tedious, bureaucratic nightmare, but every step was a victory. The local cemetery quietly removed the placeholder headstone from the empty grave. The family trust was finally legally secured and passed wholly to Tommy and me. We didn't sell the land. Instead, honoring my father and grandfather, we established the Hayes Preservation Trust, ensuring Hayes's Folly would remain untouched green space forever, using the massive trust income for local community projects. The land was finally at peace. Tommy didn't try to reclaim his old life. He embraced his new freedom. He now lives nearby, and we see each other constantly, making up for 42 lost years over countless coffees and late-night phone calls, always on the landline, just for the irony. I look back now and know I made the right choice. My calculated confrontation wasn't about revenge. It was about honoring my father's sacrifice, bringing my brother home, and ensuring that greed didn't murder our family's future. The silence of the night no longer holds fear. It holds the promise of another morning with the brother I thought I had lost forever. Like this video if you think my father made the ultimate sacrifice to save his son. Subscribe for more stories about family secrets and decades-long betrayals. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. Do you think my father was right to hide Tommy away for 42 years? Or should he have exposed George immediately and risked their lives? I'll see you all in the next story.